kia ora everyone. We're with the, is it a half of the Thurlows? How many Thurlows are there?
There's a few of us, 5 in direct family, but yeah, the other half of the, I guess, Thurlow brothers hunting duo.
Nice. Brent, mate, you've got some hell of a trophies in the background there for anybody that does watch on YouTube. Man, that's cool.
Yeah, there's a couple. I got my chamois here that I got in January, actually.
Nice.
So that's a big boy. That's 11 1/4. So he was, a bit of a prize of a lifetime.
Yeah.
The old man Stag here, it's a nice 12. And then I think you can't quite see this one here. Just a bull tar. I think that one's twins.
Yeah.
So,
So whose house is this?
about. This is my parents' place.
Lovely.
So just staying with them just after I got back from the States. So.
Yeah. In Wellington?
Yep.
Yeah.
In Wellington.
Nice. So we were just talking offline. You're heading back to Sydney tomorrow. I want to know how you get a couple of months off work, mate.
So I guess I've been off since March. So I've been off for 6 months now. Headed back to work. Just got finished up hiking across America. So I guess working 5 years in law in Australia, it kind of burns you out a little bit. So decided to take a bit of a mid-career break and head overseas and do some hiking.
Wicked. Miniature retirements, I think it's what Tim Ferriss calls it.
Yeah, recommended.
Why the hell would you walk from, was it Mexico to basically Canada? Was that what you did?
Yep. So did the Pacific Crest Trail. So walked 4,300 kilometers from the Mexican border all the way through to Canada. And that's through California, Oregon, and Washington.
And was there moments where you wish you were armed? One for predators and two for magnificent game?
There was no real predator issues. Saw a couple black bears, but they were all pretty tiny through there. Mm. But there was a point we hit Washington during the elk bugle. Mm. And so we had bulls bugling around us. We stalked up on a couple good 6-pointers, and oh man, at that point I realized I love hunting a lot more than hiking.
It's hiking with a purpose, isn't it? Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah. You're following a trail day in, day out and seeing awesome views, but you are on a trail and you are, I guess, kind of playing other people's rules in a way. Whereas hunting, you've got that freedom to roam around. You're, as you say, hunting with a purpose. You're getting after something specific. Yeah.
Oh, there's the old man there.
Yeah.
Nice. So there was 3-4 of you guys. How did the planning go? How far out did you look into this?
So I kind of came up with the idea. I think I heard about it, online, heard a couple of stories about different people doing it. And then once I heard about it, I couldn't shake the idea. So it kind of just got in my head and I started researching it more and more, and it just kind of took over. So I made the decision to do the trip, I guess, probably October last year. Pulled the trigger and committed in December. And I actually messaged a mate of mine who's up in Waipak. He had a tent from Z-Packs. It's a Cuban fiber tent, super ultralight. And I remember he had one from a few years ago. So I messaged him and asked him what the company was like, if it was a good product. And he's like, oh yeah, it's great. Why do you want that? And I was like, oh, I'm going to go hike the Pacific Crest Trail. And so Tom, being a good Kiwi hunter, he's keen on adventure. And he's like, shit, that sounds like a great trip. You mind if I come along? I've been looking for my next adventure. I was like, mate, jump on it. So he went from 0 to 100 pretty bloody quick. But yeah, then the other couple blokes ended up just meeting on trail. So lots of people do it. I think 5,000 people got permits this year to start the hike, and ended up just meeting people along the way, and 2 other blokes that we ended up walking the whole way with.
So tell us more about this tent. What makes it so special?
So I got a Z-Packs duplex, and it's a Cuban fiber tent. So it's a really ultralight, thin material. They actually make climbing straps with it. I'm not sure if you've done any climbing or anything, but a lot of the different webbing and slings are made out of Dyneema, which is a non-stretch fabric, static kind of rope. And it basically just worked out that it's really thin. It's 100% waterproof. And the guys that made the tents, EPACs, it's a single wall tent. You use your trekking poles as your poles. So there's no poles in the tent, and it's all just done on tension. Great tent. As I say, it's super light. I think it weighs about 600 grams.
Wow.
Yeah, so they definitely benefit when you're hiking that far to have such a lightweight gear. And I also ended up getting a pack, which was a hyperlight mountain gear, which is also made out of the same material, and so it's just ultralight. I think my pack was 900 grams. So going from my hunting pack, which I think, I'm not sure what it weighs in grams, but it weighs about 7 pounds, to the one that's just under 2 pounds, which is a huge difference.
Mate, that sounds the dream. I'm currently reading, I think it's called The Heart of Hunting by Craig Kagoo, and
yep.
He's keen on that. So as he hit you up about, oh shit, this tent looks good, he's got his like sort of clear filmed tarpy thing that he's duct taped the guy ropes onto.
yeah, he's a good guy. Greg, he's been a big fan of the Cuban fiber for a long time. He chatted to him a few times. He's actually got the same pack, and he raves about that. But like, some people have extreme ultralight gear. Like, I think the tarp is polyurethane, or I can't remember what the stuff is, but it's a different breed of people who have ultra light. You're kind of suffering more than everybody else.
Yeah, on the suffering, with the single wall, how was the temperature?
Pretty good. I mean, to be honest, I didn't set the thing up for 3 months.
Wow.
So in California, it's pretty incredible. So we had great weather at the start of we had poor weather, I should say, at the first kind of week. It was in May, so we had a few storms, a few big thunder cells coming down, having hail in the desert. But after that, California was incredible. We had blue skies and no rain for, as I say, 3-4 months, and basically just cowboy camps. I threw down my ground sheet and slept on the sleeping pad. But the tent was really good. When I did send it up, I had to set it up a lot more in Washington. I guess the main drawback with single walls is you get a bit of condensation. So and you do get that wind flow through. Gwyn, my brother, we actually tested it out in a chamois hunt before I went over in March, and we got the shit beaten out of us, actually. So I'm not sure how good it's going to go in New Zealand. I think it's more of a 2-season New Zealand tent versus over there where you can stretch it out with less condensation.
And I guess it's spring here now, and even on a reasonably calm day, the wind's starting to pick up. Do you think you'd suffer a little bit with the wind as well?
It was pretty good in the wind. I think it just depends. Maybe some gusts you might struggle. As long as I guess I had these pretty thin shepherd hook pegs, which a couple of times got blown out. But I think if you had a bit of a more chunky kind of stake, you'd probably go a bit better.
And with the trekking poles, I suppose if they fall over, they fall over. But when you've got those normal sort of pup tents, you've got a little bit of play in the poles, and they sort of collapse on you and sort of things like that. Would it be a case you got blown over and just like blow the poles out and then fall down? Would that be what happened?
Exactly. So you kind of get that bit of give with a normal pole, whereas these, I guess the give probably comes from the guy lines. So you can't, I guess, try to have it too taut. But yeah, I had a couple of them pop out and kind of flapping along, and then your tent gets wet and all your gear starts soaking through.
Yeah. And so you mentioned the sleeping mat. What was that, and what were you sleeping in?
So I was running a Thermarest Neo Air. Actually, I ended up I had a one for the start of the trail, but then the baffles kind of delaminated and blew out. So that was an old one that I had for quite a few years. So I ended up picking up another Neo Air, but the insulated version. And so that thing is a dream. You've got 4 or 5 inches of cushion, and it's insulated so you don't get cold from the ground, and you definitely notice it when you're sleeping on the ground every day.
That'll be a fantastic piece of kit, and hopefully it lasts as long as the other one did.
Yeah, exactly. It's pretty impressive, especially for, I guess, when you buy gear here, you hunt maybe 3-4 weeks out of the year, depending on how often you can get out. But out there, because you're out, I think we were out for 144 days straight, basically. So you end up testing the gear pretty rigorously.
That's cool. That's cool. Mate, so you said you had to pick up a new mat. What was the logistics like going along? Did you have like planned stations or somebody to bring your stuff? How did it all work?
Yeah, so I guess the trail is basically a kind of a network of trails that have been joined up. So New Zealand has the Te Araroa Trail, which Cape Rangita Bluff. So pretty similar in that it's kind of a whole bunch of 3 to 4 day hikes, maybe 5. I think the longest stretch we did was 7 through the Sierra Mountains. So you kind of hike along, and then you get to a trailhead, or you walk through a town, and you can stop and hitchhike into town, get your food, get a burger, some beers, and resupply, and then kind of hitchhike back and get onto it again. For ordering gear, I think America's pretty good with all their postal system. REI is probably the biggest company that's used. They're fantastic. You just go on the website, deliver it to a post office along the way, and 3 days later it's there.
And so that ordering, were you able to access internet and stuff on the trail? How the trail go? Had to charge them, all that those sorts of questions?
Yeah, it's all these different logistics. So the internet was pretty good. I ended up getting a SIM card from AT&T. Their coverage was pretty awesome through kind of the southern part of the trail. So it'd be quite funny. You'll hiking along for a couple of days without coverage, and then you'll see a hiker or two just sitting in one spot on their phones. You're like, oh, someone's got coverage here. So everyone kind of stops and sits down, has an impromptu break, and updates the world. Let the family know that you're still hiking along, and see what's changed.
And how did you sort of feel about that?
I mean, I think it's interesting because everyone's like, these days everyone's on their phone pretty constantly, so it's quite nice to have a break. I think one of the good things about being out for so long is you kind of disconnect from the world generally and have a bit of a break. And I guess that's probably one of the attractive things for hunting as well. I'm a big fan of expedition style hunting. So with work, you've got to kind of balance and use your leave wisely. So when you can get out and recharge and actually have no contact, no cell phone, you're not checking emails, you're not on your Instagram, you get that bit of a reprieve, and you're focusing basically on your base needs. Where am I going to get water? Where am I going to camp? What food am I going to have? So it's definitely recharging. But and again, it is good to catch up with everyone and see what else is going on in the world.
Yeah, and so as far as documenting goes, did you carry a camera, video, or GoPro?
Yep.
What did you do?
Yeah, so I had a dual system. So I had my cell phone, just a Samsung, which I took videos on. So I've got a stack of videos that I need to sit through and maybe try and come up with a little video or some highlights. But then I also took a compact camera. I had a Fujifilm X100F. Actually got that a recommendation from Cam Henderson. Right, so nice. He's a big proponent of the Fujifilm. So I was talking to him and asking him, what's going to be good for portraits and landscapes, and he recommended that, and it was fantastic.
Yeah, and it's just point and shoot or anything specific?
Yeah. No, it's a fixed lens, 35mm equivalent. So it hasn't got zoom. It's probably going to be limiting for hunting. But I got the SLR from that with the big zoom lens and things like that. But more of a lightweight, compact kind of camera that has really high quality. The good thing is that you can actually blow the pictures up. So I think that was probably one of my biggest attractions to that, is the high quality. And yeah.
No, cool. And so how did the conversation with the boss go, or are you the boss?
No, I've still got a boss. I'm not quite there yet. She's pretty active herself, my boss, and so it turned out she'd heard about the trail, and I was like, well, I want to do this hike, and she's like, oh yeah, I've heard about that. that takes quite a long time. I was like, yeah. She's like, oh, okay. And I was basically set my mind on it. So I was kind of going either way, whether they approved it or not. But fantastically, they supported me and said, you know, we don't want to lose good people. You know, you've been here for a couple of years now, and they got behind me and said, yeah, take your sabbatical, take your leave, and there's a job coming first. So I've actually got to head back for the first time next week, I think, or the 18th. So.
And so where does the sabbatical sort of sit normally with you guys? I know at the place I'm working at, our directors are sort of doing 8 weeks every 3 years. What are you guys up to in your place?
I'm not sure. I think this is probably a bit of a special circumstance because I probably was like, well, I'm going to go either way. Yeah. I'm not. I think normally you have 2 years. Like you get a long-term service leave. I think is after 3 or 4 years. Mm-hmm. So. Yeah, I think it's not exactly in the structures, but they worked around it, which is really good. And it, you know, I think if you want to try and get the best out of your people, it's probably a good way to go.
Yeah, absolutely. So on that, sort of just doing something a little bit different. When I was talking to your brother, he said how in the graduate program they sort of needed to not lay people off, but let people go a bit loose in the GFC, and he came down and worked with you at Fox Glacier. How did that come about, man?
Yeah, that was pretty funny. So I had a mate who did the glacier guiding on the Fox during his summer holidays at university, and he's like, "Oh, you should go do that. It's a blast. You're outside. You know, you're meeting heaps of people and fun." So I did one season, and then obviously came and was raving about it. Gwen and Dad actually came down and we did a trip over New Year's one year, and you know, walked on the glacier, and there's good chamois hunting around there, and we got on a couple nice bull tar as well, which was pretty awesome. And so I think he saw the benefits of it and how much fun it is. Then the next year they were looking for more staff. We had a few people that resign or didn't work out, and so they had a couple of spaces they needed to fill, and he was keen, and so they were like, does anyone know anyone? And he got into it and he loved it. It was quite funny. I think it was the week or the second week that he was there, I had a mountain climbing trip planned with another mate, and we were going to go climb Mount Lindenfell, which is just over 3,000 meters off the shoulder of Mount Tasman. Mm-hmm. And I was like, oh, go on, you're here, come climb mountain with us. And so we've loaded up and got a helicopter up there. One of the benefits is, you know, we work with the helicopter pilot, so we get good deals, and got into Pioneer Hut up in the neve there, and we were going to bed early, so we get up early and have an alpine start at about 1 a.m. He leans over to me and he's like, Brent, I've never worn a harness before. And we're sitting there, we're going to go climb, you know, do full alpine climbing. And I'm like, crack up, that's awesome. So he was real keen. He loved it. He just, you know, put all the gear on and got stuck in. So climbed up there and had an awesome climb. And yeah, we were hooked basically. It was good. As I think Gwen said, you learn all the skills and you learn how to be safe out there, which is really helpful.
Yeah, and so where did mountain climbing start for you? Did you go to Otago as well? I know there's a pretty big mountain climbing club there.
I did, yeah. No, I was at Otago as well, studying law. But I actually didn't get into climbing until I was at Fox, so more hunting. Mm-hmm. Would have been good probably to set up a hunt sock type thing that they have in Canterbury. But we basically just hunted as much as possible. So we did a lot of our own stuff, so probably more just off the reservation, going up hunting, like chasing tar and chasing chamois, probably where we shouldn't have been before we knew what we're actually doing. Yeah,
it's a steep learning curve in the mountains. I've only sort of ventured up the mountains, I'd say once. Yeah, mm-hmm. that was up the back of Timaru Creek, up the back of Moonlight and Rose's hut. It looks over Dingleburn, and yeah. It was a nice little place. But yeah, that was pretty comfy. Labour weekend, so not much snow around.
Yeah.
What's it like the first time that you start encountering snow and ice and crampons?
Yeah, it can be pretty. Yeah, it can be pretty nerving. I mean, I think one of the things I remember we went in a tar cull that Doc arranged on the east coast there, and we kind of climbed up into the hills and climbed up on ice, and you realize you can generally climb things relatively easy, and then but when you got to turn around and come back down, that's when you start getting the jelly legs, and you're stuck there, your legs bouncing up and down. You're worried about the exposure fall, and you got to turn around, and kicking into ice is not nice. So it is good to have all that gear. Get the crampons, makes it a little bit more like you've got a bit of confidence in that.
So if someone is looking to get into this sort of stuff, mountaineering and making a true expedition about it, the guys from NZ Hunt are doing these massive trips from the east over to the west to go hunt dar and chamois. Where do you think is a good place to start?
I think a lot of probably a good place to start is, I think, the Mountain Safety Council. They have a lot of good information. So I think they've just changed up the way they run their operation. They used to run courses for mountaineering, like level 1 mountaineering, but I think they've just stopped that actually. But I'd say their website's probably a good place to start, or hiking, tramping clubs, climbing clubs. I think most cities kind of have a club where you can actually go in and meet people who are, experienced and probably keen to take some people out, to get that basic experience. Even just walking across a ridge or walking on a glacier, just that little bit of knowledge can, help you and put you in good stead.
Yeah, and so back to the guiding on the glacier, how did the tourists and people that came with you, how did they respond to seeing these crazy little animals darting about and running along cliffs?
Yeah, we saw a few, which is pretty cool. Everyone loved it. So we had a few in the Fox Valley there. They come running along, a couple of young bucks getting lost and traveling around. And I always love trying to spot them and point them out to people, and everyone's kind of fascinated about it. I think you get a lot of English people who are aware of deer, and a few different other people, Americans. They all have deer pretty readily available because they don't get hunted, so they hang around in the towns quite a lot. So no, it's a great thing to have as part of the whole vista and looking around.
Nice. And so from Australia, have you had a go at hunting over there, or are you a bit like Gwyn and just decide to bank on what you know?
Yeah, no, it is. Australia, especially New South Wales, is a hard nut to crack, especially since they shut down a lot of the public land hunting. So even you can jump through all the hoops to get the firearm, but then you got to have somewhere to go. So and then out of Sydney, you're driving quite a few hours to get there. So unless you do befriend some landowners, it is a pretty hard place to go. And I think Gwyn did mention, by the time you go somewhere out of state or out of the region, you're already traveling the same distance from New Zealand to Australia. So we did focus on coming back here. It's pretty easy to jump on a Friday night flight after work, fly over, go hunting for the week, and fly back very early Monday morning and head straight back into the office, red-eyed and drinking lots of coffee.
Yeah, because I know now with the likes of the Hunter Valley and stuff, you don't need the actual hunting license to go onto a private property, but it's still the case of finding the property. But
exactly,
people don't sort of realise that New South Wales is a massive place, and Sydney to New South Wales will take you 9 hours or so.
Oh yeah, exactly.
Sorry,
it takes 2 hours to get out of Parramatta Road out to the Blue Mountains. It's like Wellington to Upper Hutt.
yeah, it's pretty crazy. And you managed to tap a stone sheep on the end of your trip, was that right? How did that?
Mountain goat. Rocky mountain goat. Yeah. So I, out of university, wasn't really keen on going into the workforce straight after university. So I ended up just messaging a whole bunch of guides and went up to Alaska and helped out with some guiding up there. Ended up doing 3 seasons guiding all the different species up there, mountain goats out of Ketchikan and southeast there, and Dall sheep, moose, bear, and got into that. So luckily I was on that side of the world, so I figured I'd go up and visit some old friends, and actually was teed up to do a bit of guiding as well. We had 3 hunts to do. One, they actually ended up finishing early because they had a good weather window, and then the last 2 actually cancelled. So there was some empty spots, and luckily I managed to jump in there, and we went in and managed to get a pretty bloody good mountain goat. Ended up being, hopefully will be a Bernard Crockett all-time record book goat.
Oh man, how about that?
Popular man.
That hasn't happened for a while. I'll turn that off, eh? Try that.
Got me nervous about mine now.
Yeah, funny. So with the guiding, obviously we've had Matt Gibson on here. What do you sort of think about going over the other side of the world? It was a dream of mine at the end of uni, but I said on that podcast that life happened to me, so I didn't do it. But what do you reckon?
Yeah. It's fantastic. I mean, their service wasn't there when I did it, so I had to actually just do it myself. I found the Alaskan Registered Guides directory and emailed every single one of them. And then I also did Colorado, and then a few maybe in Montana as well, and had a few guys who were keen to get me over there in September, October, but it didn't quite work out with university, the hunting seasons. So they were, come over and help out. But so I've always wanted to do it, but the timing didn't work out. But my last year of university, I ended up going pretty crazy and just cramming the whole year into one semester, finishing early, and I think it was June, and then flying over to Alaska in July to help out on mountain goats and moose. So it was awesome. I did 3 months there. Ended up doing 2 goats and a moose. And then made some awesome friends and got invited back to the next year, which led to Dow sheep. I ended up going and doing commercial salmon fishing in Bristol Bay, antler picking. So we'd go fly around through the summertime, flying around in a super cub, looking for moose antlers, landing, hiking, picking them up and dragging them out.
What do they need those for?
So making chandeliers, dog chews. So all the white older antlers, guys would cut them up and sell them as dog chews. All the really good ones, big ones, we would sell to Cabela's. So they'd get them all mounted. So you try and find a big pair. You can get upwards of $2,000 for a good big set of antlers. So there's quite a bit of money in it, but a lot of hard work. The guy I was working for, he flies around a lot, and he kind of knows all the areas, and he'll fly around with his plane and just GPSing all these antlers, and then he'll have a map, and then he'd just fly me and another guy and his nephew in and leave us in there for a week, and we'd walk around all these valleys, picking them up and bringing them back and fly them out.
Nice. That now makes so much sense why the likes of Stephen Drake, and I can't remember his name, from Get Hush, and he's always out there. He might even have the handle shed crazy. It's huge over there. Those guys down in the lower 48, they get after it hard. I think in Jackson Hole, they have a big elk reservation there. So through the winter, it's like a kind of a preserve, and they have an opening day on antler hunting. So they let the scouts, I think, go through first, and they pick it all up. But hundreds of trucks will come in. I think they open it up at midnight on a specific day, and then there's the guys out there just combing the whole area, picking them all up. And I think a lot of the guys probably do it for their personal stuff, but then there'd be a few commercial as well. Man, that's awesome. That's cool. You were saying about the timing. I think that's what tripped me up, because I think Ultimate OE might have started around January or something like that, and then then to send you off in the middle of the year. And I think that was kind of like, I'm going to go work. And
exactly.
Didn't work out.
Yeah, I mean, if they had that when I was at the time, I would have jumped on board. It's such a great adventure. You get out there, you kind of, everything's big and everything's different, and bears, you get bear annoyed.
Yeah.
You kind of think there's a bear behind every tree, and you kind of feel a little bit badass walking around with a 44 Magnum. And,
Yeah.
I had one funny story when I was moose guiding. I woke up on my 24th birthday, and I heard the client, he was rustling around behind me, and I kind of heard this bear just chomping away. Just they kind of make a huff, like a huff, huff, and like chewing their teeth. And I was like, oh fuck, there's a bear in camp. So I jumped out of the tent in my jocks, and I saw the client was behind me, and he'd put himself behind my tent, and then the bear was about 30 meters away, just kind of standing on the 2 feet looking. And I came out with a 44 and just said, like, oh, here we go, this is the day on my birthday. But luckily she was just kind of checking us out. I had a couple cubs on the airstrip and sniffed us, and once she got a good smell, she was away.
Yeah. And you got out there, made yourself big and bear sort of stuff going on.
Yeah, exactly. Just start talking to them. I mean, the main thing, like, a lot of the animals, like a lot of bears, they've been hunted by humans for thousands of years. So if they get a whiff of you, they're gone. They're just normally curious and try and see what's up. But I think when you start getting into more high population places where they get a bit more educated and they get a bit more comfortable, like Kodiak, they don't care about humans. They'll come at you either way.
Yeah.
Up there, they're pretty low impact.
Yeah. So with the camping out in the wilderness up there, is it sort of sticking to the likes of an airstrip or something like that, or can you go up into the bush edge and just set up, or are you sort of risk?
It depends on what you're hunting. Moose, we because it's such vast country and they travel so far, you don't want to be carrying a moose anywhere, let alone 2 kilometers, 3 kilometers. So we set up on the airstrip, and you kind of hunt around and try and call them into you. Luckily, they're pretty receptive to calls, but like sheep, you'd have to go a lot farther. So we kind of get dropped in. Then you spike camp up maybe a day or 2 days, depending on the valley and the drainage. You can walk quite a ways. And then mountain goats as well. We use the whole base camp and drop camp system where you spike out.
Nice. And so first year as a guide, was it doing all the hard jobs? Had you ridden a horse?
Oh yeah, you're just packing. So you're basically a human mule. You get up, make coffee, make sure that all the gear's up there. Heavy pack. If the client can't carry anything, it goes on your back. The guide, the big main guide's there holding their hand, talking them in, and you're kind of just the mule. But it's good fun. Like, I think all the big difference between a lot of Kiwi guys is we can hunt a lot versus them. They've only get their seasons, and not a lot of guys get a lot of hunting hours. So I think probably one of the things that helped me was I'd done quite a bit of hunting already, and so the guys could use me a lot more. You're out there bird dogging ridges and glassing, and actually hunting the animals, and it was a lot of fun.
Nice. And so what's hunting camp like in that situation? Where did the stories sort of go?
You go everywhere. Depending on who the hunter is. I mean, some of them are pretty funny blokes, or all the classic stories, and everyone loves to spin a hunting yarn. So you get to learn all the different stories from, sitting in a tree stand, or some of the guys. We had a couple super rich clients. I think one of them, he shot a goat this year. He's off. He was hunting polar bear just before he came to us, and then he's off now hunting Marco Polo in Tajikistan. So some of the guys have got incredible stories.
Yeah, and with that sort of exposure to game all around the world, do they need the guide, do you think, or that's just part of their experience?
Some of them do, yeah. Some of them do. You get the collectors. who just, they want to have it on the wall, so they don't really have that kind of hunting instinct. They just get people to take them out. But then you get guys who are actually really, really interested, and they're probably my favorite, because they actually want to learn. They soak it all up. They're asking you questions. What are we doing? We're going to sit here in glass for a while and look at this type of country. This is where they feed. This is where they'll kind of be in the morning, and they actually try and soak it in, because it is a bit of a different way to hunt. You might be down in Arkansas or Kansas where you're hunting over a tree stand on a barley field, versus Western hunting where you're hunting mule deer through sagebrush or moose in the tundra. It's a whole vast different area and skill set. So it's pretty hard to get across all of them. So it takes a lot of work.
Yeah, nice. Going back to your Pacific Crest, I said this when I first got in contact. I wanted to hear how those ultra shoes went. We had Zach Bitter on, and him being a ultra runner, and what is he, world 100-mile and 12-hour champion, uses those shoes. How do they stand up to the trail?
Yeah, so ultras, I only use one pair, but so mate Tom, he used ultras the whole way and he loved them. I think my issue was with them. I started using Hoka 1-1s, and they had a bit of a thick cushion and thick sole, and they weren't a zero drop, so they had a bit of a drop to them. So I hiked the whole desert section, the first 700 miles with those, and then I changed to an ultra, which is a zero drop flat shoe. But unfortunately, I think they started stretching out my Achilles, and I had a week with them through the Sierra Mountains, climb Mount Whitney, which is the tallest peak in the contiguous United States, in them, and they just killed me. But that's probably my fault for changing to them at that point in time. But no, everyone raves about them. They're the most popular shoe on the trail. Most people, I guess, probably went through about 4 pairs of shoes. So if they start blowing out, start getting compressed, and you start getting tears and all the webbing. But no, they're really good.
And with Hoka, you said, what was the decision to go with something like that?
I was researching all the different shoes that everyone kind of talked about. And that one came up a few times, and a lot of people who ran the ultras and then ended up switching to Hokas, and they said it was like walking on a cloud. So I guess, when you're on your feet day in, day out, that's kind of the one thing you want to protect the most. So I kind of figured, well, this seems like a good way to go. And then when I was home at Christmas in Wellington, they had them on sale at Bivouac. So I was like, well, it's on the list. I'll try these and see what they go with. And yeah, they were perfect for my feet.
Nice. And so what was the prep like?
Well, I started doing some just big hikes in Sydney. So, heading out to the beaches from where, out to Bondi, and getting some good sights out there, doing long walks, 20 Ks, 30 Ks. But then ended up taking pretty much all of April off and going hunting. So I had a Wapiti block down there, had the Charles block for 10 days. So did that with a big backpack. And then went chamois hunting for another week with my brother, and then did the St. James walkway with my uncle, and then just kind of put lots of miles on the legs. I think most people are pretty common to know, the only real way to get hill fit is walking hills. Some people took a little bit longer, so they got fit on trail, so it takes a little while to get your legs under you. Everything hurts as you're walking. So the first three weeks, you wake up in the morning, you try and do lots of stretches and try and keep everything kind of moving, but your feet start to hurt. The pain kind of moves all around your body. Tom had a saying, he said, everything hurts, just depends on which time. And once your right earlobe hurts, he reckons that would be the last of it.
So speaking of, that would be the last of it. How do you get rid of that to put one foot in front of the other?
How do you get rid of the pain?
Yeah.
God, I think lots of ibuprofen. The hiker, they call it vitamin I. So quite a few people pop on ibuprofen. As we ate a lot of protein.
Yep.
So I was pretty lucky. We had the Radix guys came to the party and they hooked us up with a few meals with them. So we had a lot of their breakfasts and meals, and I think that was pretty awesome because we got that good nutrition early on. We were making sure we had high protein, high fat, trying to stay away from the sugars, but that didn't really last because you're just burning so many calories in the end. Like you're just shredding weight, so it was pretty hard to keep up with the food consumption.
Yeah, and yeah, those Radix guys look pretty good. But yeah, as you say, when you're doing miles and miles, you just need to get it in any which way you can hopefully get.
Oh, exactly. It was bit of a disgusting diet, really. Eating 1,000 calories for a snack break at 10 in the morning. Eating 6,000 calories a day. It's awesome. It's hard to adjust back to it because I'm like, I could be eating right now because I'm not moving. So it's pretty funny.
Yeah, and on that, how's the guts been if you were popping a few vitamin I's and, like you say, eating stack loads of anything?
Yeah, definitely became very regular.
Yeah.
It was my morning wake up call was when I woke up and had to go to the toilet. So that was quite good. 5 a.m. wake up call. We had to go dig a cat hole and get that business out of the way. But no, for the most part, I think the gut was pretty good. I had like one section through Oregon where I was a bit dicey. A couple of times where you thought you might going to poop yourself, and then a few times where you weren't quick enough and you did poop yourself.
Oh, mate.
It's pretty funny. So they have a saying that you're not a true through hiker until you shit your pants.
You see that in marathons, eh? Just like kinds of things.
Pretty much everyone did. So you kind of like just don't talk to anyone. Find yourself a little creek and clean.
Bit of a rite of passage, eh?
Exactly.
Here's the answer for anybody looking for a rite of passage. Go to the Pacific Crest and put yourself.
Yeah, exactly. And you kind of think you've got time, but sometimes you just don't because you've got to, you're on the trail and there's a few people around. You're trying to find a secluded spot. Sometimes you just can't make it.
That's pretty crazy. And so then what did you do about water over there? Is it, is there enough to go along, or you got to carry a bit of that?
Yeah. So I guess there's a kind of few different strategies because you're starting down in the desert in Southern California there out of San Diego. So we were pretty lucky this year. It was a very wet year. So the snows in Sierra were twice as much as normal. There was the super bloom in the desert. So all the desert flowers were just popping, lots of all the cactuses, and it was incredible. Fields of poppies. So because there was a lot of water, we didn't have to carry it as much. So along the way, there's all the little streams and horse troughs, and some of the sources are not very appetizing, so you have to have a filter. Some of them you had to kind of strain through a buff or through a bandana and then filter it through a micron filter. So I used the Catadine B3, which is a squeeze kind of fiber filter, and had no real problems with that. It was awesome. So that was kind of one of the big daily chores. And then through the desert, you basically plan your day around water. So you kind of camp near water, and then you fill up and say, well, I can get, I've got 2-3 liters. I can get, 20 miles or 15 miles to the next source, and try and get to that, have lunch. When the heat temperature starts getting higher and higher, you kind of have to stop at about 10 or 11 o'clock, sleep for 3-4 hours in the heat of the day, and then start again and hike into the night once it cools down a bit. But then, once we got through the Sierras, there was just water on tap. You just scoop it up and drink it. There's giardia through a lot of it. Some people got sick, but I managed to avoid it. I filtered pretty much most of the way through the Sierras, not so much, and through Washington, not so much.
And so how's the taste factor of some of that water, even though it's been through a filter?
Some of it's really good. Some of it tastes like a horse trough. So there's a few ones. I think there was one with that there were comments that there's been uranium testing and a few different additives, but you kind of have to get through it. Used a lot of additive, Mio squeeze, like flavor squeezes, which are pretty good because you kind of get sick of drinking water after a while.
Yeah. And on the Giardia, what do they think sort of brings it to the water over there?
Probably animals, I'd have to say, or I'm not really sure what other aspect. Maybe just over time, it's been carried by humans. I mean, it's a pretty high impact zone. So, as I said earlier, I think about 5,000 people got permits to hike the PCT, but you've also got people who are out there doing smaller sections and people who are doing day walks. So, a lot of people, and then which means there's a lot of impact and a lot of people getting their hands in there. And I think there was a norovirus breakout last year.
That would not be fun.
Yeah, exactly. Especially when you're trying to hike. I mean, there was a couple of people who got Giardia, and it takes a little while to kick in as well. So it's about 2 weeks, and so you just end up feeling tired and lethargic and not really wanting to walk, which is pretty much what everyone feels like anyway. But when you start losing lots of weight and you can't walk, a couple miles, and you got a bit of an issue.
Yeah. And so, what was the, that permit idea? I guess is quite interesting. There's again diverging from hunting, something that they're sort of wondering about with the Great Walks. Do they sort of limit the access, or I see they've just opened up Humpridge down south, which those people that were running that track privately for ages did a lot of work to get it recognised, and it's going to be interesting the next 10 or 20 years now, with it being recognised, what the outcome is of even more people going along the track. Is that what the permit system is about, just to monitor that impact?
Exactly. I think it's more a response to trying to spread it out, to limit that human impact. It used to not be permitted, so you used to kind of everyone could start kind of whenever they wanted. Generally, people would start on April 1st, April Fool's Day, and if that landed on a weekend or it was a wet weekend, then you might have 300-400 people trying to start on the same day. So 400 people cruising through, the campsites are going to be a nightmare. The towns are going to be chocked up. So they've limited, in an attempt to kind of spread it out and have less impact, they've limited it to 50 people per day, starting the PCT. So it kind of stretches it out, and then everyone kind of gets crammed up at the start anyway, and then everyone kind of spreads out. I think I had a quick look at the finishers, people who've reported it to finishing. I think it's only about 500 people so far have reported finishing the trail out of 5,000. So it's not a huge amount of people finishing it this year, because it's a pretty tough year.
Yeah, and intersected Te Aroha the other day. How does that sort of, do you know much about how many people are doing that and finishing that? I know someone that's done half of it now, but he unfortunately, he's had a child, so he's stopped with the North Island. Is big numbers on that, do you think?
No, I actually haven't looked into it. I think they're starting to get a lot more popular. Still pretty young trail. I think they're still, trying to find ways to link it up 100%. I think there's still a few like road walks and a few different things up in the North Island, which hasn't got like kind of a full 100% kind of wilderness hiking trail. But it's definitely a lot more popular. A lot of people know about it over there. It's starting to get a bit of recognition in the through hiking community. A lot of people come over. I was in the St. James in March, and one of the huts there, and you're looking at the hut book, and it's just PCT or TA hiker. So there's quite a few people coming through it. So I would imagine there's a bit of a team going through.
Nice.
But yeah, I'd love to get that one done.
Yeah. And did you hear in the States? Did you hear much about our Great Walks, or when you said you were a kid? Yeah.
Yeah, everyone loves Kiwis. Everyone wants to come, or a lot of people, if they haven't been, they want to go. So a lot of people, a lot of people know about Milford Sound. A lot of people kind of know generally about, what New Zealand has to offer. So it's pretty cool. You kind of, encouraging people to come over and get out there and bit of an ambassador. And everyone loves Kiwis. It's pretty funny.
Yeah, no, it's one of my sort of ashamedly, I don't know, things coming from Southland to have never done any of the great walks, and also never hunted down there. It's always a bloody wasted childhood.
Yeah. Because you've only recently got into the whole hunting scene, right?
Yeah. So St. Gwyn, I guess about 13, I saw those heads at the Hermitage, and I think now that might have been the little trigger, but it took till the end of uni. Uni was big things. I was trying to play rugby, I was at school, I tried swimming for a while, tried to play a soccer player for a while, and you try to play rugby, so there was never any time for anything, and weekends were always taken up. And so once I'd finished uni, still playing a bit of rugby, got in the odd weekend, and now I don't have rugby, but I've got a child, so
yeah,
still working on it.
Full-time job, yeah. So I guess you come into the new wave of hipster hunters, I guess.
That's right.
The Joe Rogan effect.
Yeah, which I think I would have found my way through it without Joe Rogan, and I had been hunting without Joe Rogan. But yeah, I'll ride that wave of classing myself as a hipster hunter. Yeah.
I mean, it's pretty hard, I think, to get into hunting if you don't have that exposure. It's hard to, you got to have a mentor or someone who's going to show you. I mean, Gwen and I, we were lucky we had our uncle Steve, who just took us under his wing and showed us basically everything. And we ran around the hills chasing him for years. So it was pretty awesome to have that hunting education, and he loved it. He loved the expedition style mission. We'd go up the back into the Lewis Pass area, chasing the chamois and deer. And I just remember trying to chase him up hills and getting lost and, not knowing where he went, and then him coming back. He's like, "What are you doing over there?" He'll come grab your pack and drag it up the hill for you. But it's, it's a good sport to get into, I think, especially when, you can feed your family with yourself with a young family. You can get out there and you can harvest, nice, clean, organic meat, and relatively cheaply as well.
Absolutely. And especially when we chuck it in the slow cooker, which is what I did with most of that seeker I got with Ben Humphrey, is put it in the slow cooker. Give her a big hunk and it's good.
Yeah.
It's bloody awesome. And so what's with the what do you even call it, the avatar for your Instagram, the stag head? Where's that from?
That, I think it was like in a bar in Wellington. I think it was at Meow or something like that. It's on their wallpaper. They had a whole bunch of different kind of mashups with animals and like Victorian suits and things like that. And I just thought it was cool with the stag head. So put that on there.
That's good. And obviously, your brother's got the chamois on there. Is the chamois one of your favourite species as well, or are you a bit more of a deer man?
No, absolutely. Chamois is probably one of the top ones in my mind. I love getting out into the Alpine. As I say, we've been lucky to get up there and chase a lot of them through, the Lewis Pass and Nelson Lakes, which is just amazing country. You get that probably a little bit better weather, so you tend to have good, higher, longer trips that you can do, and then just getting out there. And they're such an amazing animal. The curiosity of them, you'd be sitting on a ridgeline and sit down, and they might spot you, and they'll come, running half a kilometre to come check you out and see what's up, and then run back and go get a mate and come back with him. So it's pretty incredible, curious animal.
Yeah, I guess they're a little bit like seeker in the way that they just start squealing at you as well.
Yeah, exactly. So it helps sometimes when you're hunting along and they let you know exactly where they are. Probably a bit of their downside for them as well.
Yeah, and so the one on the wall, tell us about this behind that.
Yeah. So he ended up getting him at New Year's. So went up with Uncle Steve, who's, I think he's 67 now. He's had 2 knee replacements, and he's still going strong. So we actually went up to one of the places where he kind of first took Gwyn and I chasing chamois, and we went up there for a bit of a look around and hunting along. And the next, I think it was the morning, we broke out into the tussock and cruising up the valley, and I actually ended up shooting one before him. It was a 9 3/4. So I looked at him and I was like, oh, that's a bloody good chamois. So I had a look at him through the binoculars, and I was like, yeah, he's a really good chamois. I'm going to take him. So I ended up shooting him, and doing all the photos, and I was like, I had a look, and I was like, got the tape out, and he ended up being 9 3/4. I was like, wow, this is the best chamois that I've shot, or actually managed to recover. I've had a few bungles on a lot of them, but the best one I've managed to recover. So I was like, oh, I'm going to take this and I'm going to mount it. And so I took the skin off that one and was pretty stoked and happy. And we had a few more days to go, and I was trips a success. So we'll just kind of cruise along and see what else comes along. And then went up a bit further, maybe a kilometre further up around there, and ended up seeing him, and I was just like, holy shit. Put the you could see the horns without the binoculars. It was like an ibex. So I was like, well, I kind of feel a bit greedy now, but I was like, I can't take the opportunity and leave that. So managed to secure him, and couldn't believe it. He was phenomenal trophy. So big bases is 11 1/4 on the one hook. I think the other one's a little bit smaller. But yeah, it's fantastic.
And so when you guys are out on the expedition, are you sort of going to a place and then going off to your separate ridges, or are you all working together, or how do you guys sort of attack it?
No, we always hunt together. So Gwen and I, we spend a lot of time hunting, and so we normally just hunt together and go on a kind of a turn-by-turn basis, see who's someone's shot something good recently, then let the other person go. Or I think Gwen's had a lot more success on tar than I have, so generally I'm up on tar. And now that I've got this guy, this big chamois, I think he's pretty much on chamois for the next few years. But yeah, we work together, do a lot of glassing, and try and use a lot of the different skills. I guess now that we're a bit older, your kind of mentality changes from getting the first one on the ground and just trying to get some experience under your belt to now actually kind of being a lot more selective, and probably using a bit more of that American ethos, trying to get some age class, trying to get a mature animal, and trying to see the resource develop. Yeah,
and did the guiding sort of influence that, do you think?
Oh, absolutely. So over in America, a lot of the places they have restrictions on what you can shoot. I mean, moose, you have to have, could be 3 or 4 brow tine on a moose, or 50 inches. Sheep, they have to be full curl ram or 8 years old or broomed off. So a lot of it is all about wanting that mature animal who's spent time in the population, managed to pass on their genetics, and potentially coming backwards a little bit. So you want to take them just past their prime. So I think that mentality is definitely filtered through a lot of my hunting. Probably not as excitable to shoot something just because it's there anymore. I definitely want to sit back and wait and be more selective.
Yeah, and speaking of the tar, and said Ben Humphrey's name before, I gave him and Cam Henderson a bit of stick, because you guys were all of a sudden shooting left-handed and even shaking left-handed in that King of the Mountain video. What was it like getting involved with that?
Yeah, there's a lot of fun. There's Gwen, he's known Ben for quite a while, and I've been fortunate enough to go on a few trips with Ben, and he's a top bloke. We got a photo on the cover of NZ Hunter together with a chamois that he shot down Foxway, and it was probably the one photo that we were taking the mickey out of a bit, just doing a big cheesy thumb. And Gwen submitted it to the store, and it made the cover, so that was a bit of a hoot. But no, that trip was amazing. I don't think you can ever get 6-7 days of blue sky weather in South Westland. So we took full advantage. And Cam, he's a super talented young guy. He's probably a bit more mature for his age than he should be.
In some aspects.
Yeah. Oh, you gotta have a good laugh.
Oh,
so he was a lot of fun. He blew me away with his skills, you know, with the editing and the quality of all of his stuff. He's getting there, and it's super impressive with what he's done. The video probably makes us look better than we really are, but it was a tough trip. So I think he kind of captured the mood of everything, and it was an awesome experience.
And so the morning I got that seeker with Ben, he sort of said that he wasn't looking forward to going hunting with you. You guys went the other week because you'd been on the Pacific Crest. How did you keep up?
Yeah, exactly. Well, I unfortunately didn't get to go on that trip after the hike, but it was quite funny. We were hunting the other day, and we're kind of trying to recover the bulls and pushing around the bush and things like that. And Gwen looked at me and said, "Oh, I'm a bit knackered." And I was kind of thought to myself, "Why? Like, what are we doing?" And I was like, "Oh wait, we've been kind of running around." So I just got the lungs and the legs, so it doesn't really affect. But I'm gonna try and keep it up. I'm going back to the office, so I'm starting to get some runs in and try and keep the fitness.
That was going to be my next question. What's the plan to try to hold on to something like that? I know the times in my life where I've been the fittest have been a full summer of a sevens training, and you sort of get to the rugby season and you go, "Oh God, I want to hold on to that." But unfortunately, life treats you in waves, and you start training for rugby or get a bit bigger or whatever, and then all of a sudden you go, "Oh man, what am I blowing again?"
Oh, exactly. I mean, I think I started the trail at 78 kilos, and then I think I got down to about 65. So I think I lost 15 kilos almost. I was skinny as, already put a few on, but luckily I've got mountain Vic here, so I've been running up and down that and trying to get a little bit of wilderness in while I can, and probably try and do a bit of trail running through the Blue Mountains in Sydney, and maybe try and get back and do some more hunting before it all disappears again.
Yeah, you might be the New Zealand Cam Haines trail running marathon a day, you reckon?
Yeah, exactly. Wow, that guy is a weapon. It's incredible. I mean, not about running, but we ended up, we were doing about 50 kilometers per day, day in, day out. So you're doing like an ultra marathon every day.
Mm-hmm.
But you kind of don't really realize it when you're just hiking for 10, 12 hours, but you start putting on some big miles and you just get, the fitness gets up there.
Did the trail take you through his neighborhood, Eugene and Portland, that sort of way?
Goes through Oregon, goes through like Bend, Oregon, through the Three Sisters and kind of past Mount Hood there. So, but not
the coast
further towards there. Yeah. So you're going through the crest, through the mountains.
Yeah, awesome, mate. Oh, well, I'll let you get packed up and ready to get on a plane tomorrow.
I've got to go back to work.
Where do people check you out, mate? Find that little caricature from a wallpaper in Wellington.
Yeah, I mean, I just run off my personal Instagram. Is probably the only really one to get after me is Brent Thurlow, or at Brent Thurlow. But we did have a one for the trail. So, buddy of mine, we had a joint Instagram called at Kiwis_Thru_America. So you can check that out, and we've got a lot of photos through that. And we actually ended up just going to do a shameless plug. We were hiking for the Catwalk Trust. So they do research for spinal injuries. So we're trying to fundraise for them. So we managed to, I think we got about $3,500 so far. And so, I mean, if everyone check that out, check our page out and have a look. And if you're so inclined, flick us a bit of cash for the Catwalk Trust. I mean, our kind of theory, it worked well with us. We're so privileged and lucky to be able to, go out and walk across America, where some people, whatever it is, maybe an injury or, some hereditary issue that they can't even walk. So hopefully with the help of the Catwalk Trust, they can find some cures for anyone out there who's any issues.
Yeah, and so what was your association there?
So it was more Tom's push on that one. So he worked at the water park there in the bay, in Hawke's Bay. Mm-hmm. I think one of the guys there had a bit of a horrible accident and he had ended up breaking his back, and I'm not sure if he's a tetraplegic or quadriplegic or something along those lines. And so he was impacted with that, and they did, a bit of sponsorship and fundraising for them. And I think Tom, just felt like it was a good fit for us. I mean, luckily I haven't got any personal, attraction to that, but it just seemed like it fitted well for us.
No, that's spectacular and awesome work, mate. So usually I get people to leave us with a thought or an idea or a quote or something that sort of hasn't done them wrong. What have you sort of been focusing on, especially if you're walking so far?
Yeah. I guess just get out there for the adventure, get out there for the yarn.
Do it for the gram.
Exactly. Hashtag or it didn't happen.
No, it's good. It's good.
No, just get out there and chase it. Live. Work to live, not live to work is probably a good one.
Awesome, man. I'll hit stop and thanks so much.
Cheers.